Please be aware, in this podcast series we talk about all areas of safeguarding, which some people may find upsetting. So please make sure you're okay listening to today's topic. Be mindful of those around you, such as children, that you might not want to listen in. Hi, I'm SSS Safeguarding Director Sam Preston.
And I'm former head teacher and content author Sara Spinks.
Today we're talking about catfishing, and at the time of recording, given that we've just seen the sentencing for a really serious case, it's important to get this on everyone's radar.
And I know you wrote an article on this last month, didn't you? To raise awareness of catfishing. So as you say, given the latest prosecution, this is really timely. So I know it's a form of online abuse, but maybe, Sam, you could sort of highlight for the listeners the key forms that catfishing takes place.
Yeah, sure. As I described in the article, catfishing, it's a form of online abuse where perpetrators skillfully target and coerce victims into relationships, which can be friendships or romantic relationships, usually with the purpose of extortion, but can also include other forms of harm.
So I'm presuming the perpetrator sets up a fake account with a background, created to sort of make the victim feel that that content is real?
Yeah, that's right. So the account will include, a fake life history, and that'll be enhanced by fake photographs. So it certainly won't be representative of the person who's doing it.
So how do people sort of get taken in, by these accounts?
Well, flattery, that's the key mode of a catfish. They basically create the illusion that they genuinely care for their victims, and they will invest time in developing this false caring or loving relationship to gain the victim's trust. And that's all with the purpose of some form of extortion. So they often invest considerable time and effort into researching a victim's digital footprint so they can present as having lots in common with their intended victim. Indeed, they can be the perfect friend or partner.
I suppose once they've established this online friendship or this loving relationship, they use that to gain personal information, and secrets, which I suppose they can then use to exploit them.
Yeah, that's right. And what we also have seen in the recent conviction of Alexander McCartney is that they can also use the relationship to gain very personal information and intimate photographs, which they then use to manipulate the victim.
So it might be worth just reviewing the McCartney case for listeners, as it really does highlight just how abusive catfishing can be.
Yeah, okay. So Alexander McCartney, he's been dubbed as the world's worst catfish. From his childhood bedroom, a 26-year-old man posed on Snapchat as a young girl and targeted girls aged roughly between the ages of 10 and 16 who were gay or exploring their sexuality. So he befriended them and then used their vulnerability to coerce them into sharing intimate details and photographs, which he then used to blackmail them into taking part in online sex acts.
So I'm just sort of wondering about non-compliance. Surely not all of his victims complied?
Well, Sarah, the horror is that many of these young girls did. I mean, we're talking about very young girls here, and they did. His threats of sharing these intimate details and photographs that he'd obtained, he was going to share them with family members and publicly.
And shockingly, he also made direct threats where he told victims he would arrange for people to rape them if they didn't comply.
Yeah, he made those kind of threats. I mean, that's awful. But the horror doesn't end there. McCartney also, in some cases, he demanded that his victims involve their younger siblings in sex acts. And tragically, when this demand was made to one of his victims, a 12-year-old victim, Kamaran Thomas, she took her own life rather than comply. And she was actually found dead with a gunshot wound to her head by her sister in the family home.
Oh, and I believe so. In the wake of this tragedy, Cameron's, did you say Cameron? I think
it's
Cameron,
Cameron. I think it's
Cameron's father.
Sarah.
Yeah, he died of suicide just 18 months later. I mean, it's just so tragic.
I mean, you're right. It's deeply, deeply sad.
So now he's been sentenced?
Yes, McCartney's been sentenced. He's to serve a minimum of 20 years after admitting to a variety of 185 charges involving 70 children, although the actual number of victims is thought to be much higher. So this also included pleading guilty to the manslaughter related to Cameron's death. So this conviction is thought to be the first case of proven manslaughter where the perpetrator and victim had never actually met or had any in-person contact.
Yeah, and I think what this case has really brought to everyone's attention is that by using his fake online presence, he actively targeted victims in 31 countries. And despite several arrests between 2016 and 2019, he continued to offend despite bail conditions.
He did. And in fact, his offending didn't cease until he was finally remanded in custody. And his final arrest followed a report to Police Scotland about a girl being blackmailed on Snapchat. And would you believe, when the police arrested him at his home, he was actually online actively catfishing his victims. So, police found thousands of indecent images on his devices, and it really indicated the prevalence of his crimes, and many of his victims haven't been identified.
So I think we mustn't shy away from having conversations about online safety with young people. I think it'd be good to end by reminding everyone of the key steps that can help protect listeners, their children, and in fact, anyone from catfishing.
You're absolutely right, Sarah. I mean, I think we've got to skill, and for some of us who don't know what these things are and haven't come across these things, we have to skill ourselves up to be able to have good conversations with our young people about this, sensible conversations. So there are some practical things, and I have highlighted them in the article, but I'll run through them quickly. First thing, and I'd say this to anybody, regardless of thinking about catfishing, manage your digital footprint. Conduct an image search on your name. Then you can manage the information that's already published on the internet. So you can request for posts, photos, and videos to be removed by the originator or by the platform. So that's a crucial thing that I would say to anybody. Do that in any case. Next, I would say check your privacy settings. Each platform has a guide to those settings and how you can set and change them. So check those out. Next, I'd say untag yourself from photos and ignore tag requests. I never allow myself to be tagged in anything. Be guarded and don't share personal identifiable information in your profile. And it's things that routinely are asked for. If you think about Facebook and LinkedIn and all these sort of things like your date of birth, your location, where you've studied, posts, photographs, conversations. So be really guarded about what you're sharing there and just think about the information you are freely making available. I would also, and this is a big one for me and my views on end-to-end encryption generally, avoid platforms that use end-to-end encryption. And if anybody wants to know my views on that, I've got loads of articles, check them out. Don't rush into any kind of relationships. Move at your own pace. And that's something to have conversations with young people about. Friendships. And it goes back to what we were saying earlier. These people are skilled. They will pretend to have similar interests. They will research things that you are interested, your young people are interested in. So they sound knowledgeable, so it sounds plausible. So just be mindful, just be careful not to rush into any kind of friendship or relationship. Move at your own pace and recognise when you're being asked to overshare with nothing shared in return. And that can feel uncomfortable. I have actually been in that position fairly recently, where somebody was asking me, and quite genuinely asking me about something. But I actually felt at this moment in time, I'm not actually sure I want to share that information with you. And that's what I said. And I think we need to be braver and bolder about doing that. And finally, I'd say be wary of a sob story. A catfish will reel you in with tales of woe in order to financially exploit you, certainly. So never transfer money or give anyone your bank or your credit card details.
That's really good, Sam. I've learned a lot from that list as well. And I think, remember, if you think you're being catfished, take a screenshot of that fake account, mute, hide, or unfollow it, and then report it. Do not block the account until you've made the report. So I think that's really key advice, isn't it?
It is. Oh, I'm so glad you said that, Sarah, because your instinct is, block. But actually, just muting the account and then don't block it until you make the report, because once you've blocked it, and the person at the other end knows that you're on to them. So once you've made the report, they will then advise you what to do and how to go about that. So you're absolutely right. As you said, mute it, hide it, unfollow it, report it, don't block until the report's made. And also, the only thing I would add to that is if you are being blackmailed, do not pay. If you're under 18 years, then report it to the Child Exploitation and Online Protection Unit. That's what you'll commonly hear referred to as CEOP. They have an online reporting system. It's an online thing. It's not a phone line type one. It's very safe to use. And it also has a facility where, say, if you're an adult and you want to make a report, but you don't want anybody around you to see you making a report, if somebody walks in, there's an icon at the top right hand. You can just click on that straight away and it just hides the screen and it doesn't show up in your history. So it's a really safe system to use. So if you're under 18 years, CEOP, go to their online reporting system and you can find that at www.ceop, that's ceop.police.uk/CEOP-reporting. But if you just do a Google search on CEOP, you'll find it. Also, parents can also make a report to CEOP, so it's not just young people under 18 that can use that system. Parents can also make a report. It's the first thing it asks you if you're under 18 or if you're a parent. So parents can access that too if they're concerned about their children. Advice is also available by calling Childline, who will help you talk through the steps if telephone contact is preferred. You can contact Childline on the usual number 0800 1111. If you're over 18 years, then contact the police by calling 101. Or if it's an emergency, if you feel at risk, if you feel immediate or you are really, really worried, then it's 999 in the UK.